1. The riddle of the self. When I was a child, I used to sit for hours in front of the mirror, staring into my own eyes and asking, "Is this really me?" For a brief moment, that familiar sense of I would dissolve, but soon it would return. My name, my memories, my preferences. And yet, deep inside, I always felt there was a hidden mystery, unanswered. Perhaps you've experienced this too when someone calls your name in a crowded supermarket. Without thinking, you turn your head. Even though that name is just a sound, you immediately associate it with a familiar entity. That's me. This is humanity's greatest paradox. Does a permanent self truly exist within us? Western philosophy once answered with certainty, "I think, therefore I am." But Buddhism presents an entirely different view. The sense of self is nothing more than a useful illusion, a story we tell ourselves over and over until we come to believe it's real. Think of looking at an old photograph. You see yourself at 5 years old, messy hair, an innocent smile. You exclaim, "That's me." But is there really anything left of that you? Every cell has changed. Your habits, thoughts, and beliefs are no longer the same. What remains is only memory and a mental label. That's me. The small lesson here is this. The self we cling to is not as solid as we think. It is like a story rewritten every day, sometimes in gentle strokes, sometimes in blurred ink, from pain, but never a permanent script. And from this point, the Buddha revealed a bold truth. What we call me is not a solid block, but a process, a flowing stream in motion. In the next part, we will go deeper. If there is no eternal self, then what exactly makes up a human being? 2. The Buddha's fundamental teaching on non-self. More than 2,500 years ago, in a small forest in ancient India, an ordinary man, once a prince, then an ascetic, spoke a truth that shook an entire era. The Buddha said, "There is no eternal self within any human being." It sounds simple, but imagine being there at that time. Almost every religion believed in an immortal soul Atman that would journey through countless lifetimes, unchanged. This idea offered comfort. Even if the body perished, some eternal essence of me would live on. And yet the Buddha declared the opposite. There is no permanent soul, no fixed I. He called this anatta non-self. Imagine someone who has believed all their life that they possess an eternal soul. Then one day, someone tells them, "No, the self you cling to is just an illusion." It must feel like the ground being pulled from beneath your feet, nothing left to hold on to. But instead of leaving us in a cold emptiness, the Buddha opened a new perspective. He did not deny our existence. He simply pointed out that we do not exist in the way we imagine. Consider a car. We call it a car. But if you take it apart, wheels, steering wheel, engine, where is the true car? None of the parts on their own are the car. Only when they come together do we attach the label car. It is the same with a human being. The self is just a temporary label on an ever-changing collection. When we cling tightly to that label, we suffer. When we see through it, we begin to breathe more freely. The small lesson here is this. Anatta does not mean we disappear. It means we are more flexible than we think. We are not bound to a rigid identity. We can change, grow, let go, and begin anew at any time. And if the self is only a label, a story, then what lies beneath it? What are we truly made of? In the next part, we will uncover the Buddha's answer, the 5 aggregates, skandhas, the 5 elements that make up what we call a person. 3. What are we made of? The 5 aggregates in daily life. The Buddha taught that what we call a human being is not a solid entity, but a flowing stream composed of 5 parts, the 5 aggregates. It may sound abstract, but if you pay attention to daily life, you'll see them everywhere. Picture this. You're driving on a California freeway. Suddenly, another car cuts you off abruptly. In that instant, the 5 aggregates spring into action. Rupa form, body. Your heart races, your hands grip the steering wheel. Vedana feeling. A wave of irritation rises. Your stomach tightens. Sannyaya, perception. Your mind instantly labels, that driver is reckless. Sankhara, mental formations. You want to honk, yell, or speed up to overtake. Vijnana, consciousness. Your awareness registers the whole process, noting the anger surging within. And then, just seconds later, the car disappears from sight. But your chest still feels hot. Your mind still clings to the anger. That entire experience, from your heartbeat to the thought, "I was insulted," was nothing more than the interplay of the 5 aggregates. None of it was an unchanging self. If you separate them, you'll see clearly. The body changes every day. Feelings arise and pass. Perceptions shift. Habits can be retrained, and consciousness itself is constantly flowing. None remain the same. The small lesson here: when we see the 5 aggregates as processes, we stop identifying with them. Instead of saying, "I am an angry person," we can recognize, this is just a wave of anger passing through the 5 aggregates. That recognition opens space for calm and freedom. But if a human being is merely a stream of aggregates, then why does the cycle of rebirth continue? What makes life carry on beyond death, into another birth? That is the very question we will explore in the next part. Why does rebirth happen? 4. The habit of clinging. Why we hold on to I and mine. We all know how a 2-year-old child loves to say 2 familiar words. Mine, mine. A toy, a candy, even a chair in the living room, everything is stamped as mine. And if anyone dares to take it away, anger flares up immediately. The interesting thing is, when we grow up, we carry that same habit with us. Only now, instead of candy and toys, we put the label mine on bigger things: our job, our car, our house, and even our opinions, our identity, our beliefs. For example, you've spent years building your career. Then one day, a younger colleague is promoted over you. Instantly, the mind erupts. This isn't fair. I deserved it more. What is hurt here isn't just the position, it's the sense of self tied to it. Modern neuroscience also shows that the human brain has a mechanism called selfing, constantly weaving a story of me to create a sense of continuity and safety. That's why clinging to me and mine isn't just a cultural habit, it's almost the default programming of the brain. But the Buddha saw clearly, this very clinging is the root of suffering. Because when we identify ourselves with a role, an achievement, or a relationship, we also hand over the keys to our happiness. And when those things change, as everything in life inevitably does, our suffering multiplies. The small lesson here is, realizing this truth doesn't mean we must renounce everything. It simply means we can live more lightly with them. We still love, still work, still enjoy, but without clinging too tightly to I and mine. Like holding a bird in the palm of your hand, light enough so it is free, yet close enough to feel its warmth. And this very clinging, this endless habit of grasping and affirming I, me, mine, is the driving engine that keeps the wheel of rebirth turning. So what exactly keeps this cycle of samsara spinning? In the next part, we will look deeper. Why does rebirth happen? And what role do craving and karma play in it? 5. Why rebirth happens. The role of craving in karma. Imagine a Friday evening. You've just finished work, tired, and decide to stop by the supermarket. In front of you is a glowing display of pastries. Deep inside, you know you're on a diet, but still you hear a whisper, just one bite. That is tanha craving the very force the Buddha spoke about. It's not just craving for cake, but every kind of desire. To be loved, to succeed, to avoid failure, to stay forever young, even the desire to disappear and escape pain. Craving is the fuel that drives the machinery of life. It makes us cling to existence, seek new experiences, and thus the stream of life continues without pause. But craving doesn't travel alone. It leaves behind traces, and those traces are called karma. Karma is not divine punishment or cosmic reward, as many believe. The Buddha was very clear. Karma is intention, Satana. Every time you act, speak, or even think, if it arises from craving, anger, or ignorance, you plant a seed. Those seeds do not disappear. They remain in the field of consciousness, waiting for the right conditions to sprout. A practical example. Suppose you have the habit of scrolling social media first thing in the morning. Each time you do it, you plant a seed of dopamine craving. The next day, you repeat it. A month later, it becomes a habit. A year later, it shapes your lifestyle. And if you're not mindful, this habit keeps rebirthing itself through different stages of life, perhaps even laying the foundation for tendencies you carry into the future. In the same way, if someone lives their entire life steeped in greed or anger, those mental habits don't end when the body stops breathing. They become the energy that continues on, like a flame passed from one candle to another. No soul jumps across, but the conditions and energy carry forward. The small lesson here: rebirth is not punishment or reward from the outside. It is the natural result of the habits we ourselves nurture. Each time we blindly follow craving, we add fuel to the wheel of samsara. But each time we act with wisdom and compassion, we plant seeds that can lead us closer to freedom. And so, the question arises, how does rebirth actually function? Is there truly a stream of consciousness that continues without a permanent self? That is exactly what we'll explore in the next part. How rebirth really works. The stream of mind. 6. How rebirth really works. The stream of mind. Many people imagine rebirth as some kind of mysterious house move. A little soul leaves one body and goes to find a new home. But the Buddha never taught it that way. He did not speak of someone moving, but of a flow, the flow of mind. Think of falling asleep. You lay your head on the pillow, awareness fades, and soon you're dreaming. In the morning, you open your eyes and feel, I'm still me, continuing from yesterday. But in reality, no soul jumped from the dream to the morning. There was simply a continuity of consciousness state after state, like frames in a film. The Buddha called this Siddha Santati, the continuity of mind. It's not a solid entity, but a chain of arising and passing moments of consciousness, flowing like waves. The next wave is not the same as the previous one, yet not entirely different. When this life ends, there is a final moment called Cuti-Chitta, the death consciousness. This mind does not vanish into nothingness. It is shaped by the deepest habits we have cultivated. And immediately after, another moment arises Patisandhi Vanana, the rebirth consciousness. Sound abstract? Picture lighting one candle from another. The second flame bursts forth, bright and alive. It is not the same flame, nor is it entirely different. This is how rebirth operates. No self jumps across, only a process continues. Or think of stamping hot wax with a seal. The seal is removed, but the impression remains. Consciousness works in the same way. It leaves its imprint, then continues in a new form. And this leads to an important truth. Rebirth is not dictated by an external force. There is no God or universe deciding where we go. It is the seeds of mind, our intentions, habits, karma that carry the flow forward. The small lesson here, the continuity of mind, is like music being played. No single note lasts forever, but the melody carries on. And we ourselves, moment by moment, are the composers of that melody. If rebirth is not the transfer of a soul, but a causal process of continuation, then it leads us to a deeper realization. Rebirth is not only something that happens after death, it is happening right now in every moment of this very life. And that is exactly what we will uncover in the next part. Rebirth in every moment. The secret happening now. 7. Rebirth in every moment. The secret happening now. When we hear the word rebirth, most of us think of something distant. Something that happens after death, in another lifetime. But the Buddha taught, rebirth is happening right now, in every moment of this very life. Take a look at an ordinary day. In the morning, you wake up, check your phone, and see a stressful work email. Instantly, anxiety arises. Then you pour a cup of coffee, its aroma filling the air, and for a moment that anxiety is replaced by ease. A few minutes later, your child runs in and spills the coffee and irritation bursts forth. Do you see? Within less than an hour, you have been born and died many times. An anxious you, a relaxed you, an angry you. Each state arises, lasts briefly, and then passes away. This is what the Buddha called Khanika Marana, momentary birth and death. Modern neuroscience agrees. Every thought in the brain lasts only a few seconds, then vanishes. The brain continuously creates the illusion of a continuous self, when in reality, it is nothing but countless stitched-together moments. Another example. You're listening to a song. At the beginning, you feel nostalgic, reminded of an old memory. A minute later, the melody shifts to something cheerful, and your mind changes with it. When the song ends, so does the emotion. Each shift of feeling is its own form of rebirth. The small lesson here is, when we see rebirth in every moment, we realize we are not bound to the past. Every negative thought, every bad habit, every fear can die right here, right now. And every breath, every choice, is a chance to be reborn anew. With this understanding, we stop worrying so much about what will happen in the next life. Instead, we focus on the present moment, because this is where rebirth is happening. This is where we can change it. And then, a deeper question arises. If rebirth happens moment by moment, what dangers come from misunderstanding it? How do we avoid falling into confusion or extremes when talking about samsara? That is what we'll explore in the next part. The danger of misunderstanding rebirth. 8. The danger of misunderstanding rebirth. When people in the West hear about rebirth, two opposite reactions often arise. Some feel excited, comforted, wonderful. After I die, I'll return as myself and continue the journey. Others grow skeptical, even fearful. If there's no eternal soul, then isn't Buddhism just nihilism? Doesn't death mean the end of everything? Both of these are misunderstandings. Take karma, for example. Some imagine it as a cosmic ledger book. Do good, the universe rewards you. Do bad, you are punished. It sounds fair, but the Buddha never taught this. He said clearly, karma is not reward or punishment, it is simply cause and effect. Like planting an apple seed, it grows into an apple tree, not because the universe likes or dislikes you, but because that is its nature. Another misunderstanding. Thinking rebirth means I will return intact. I once heard an American say, if there's a next life, I hope I come back as me again, just richer. It sounds amusing, but the Buddha never said you return like a package being shipped. In reality, that permanent I doesn't exist. What continues is the stream of mind and karma, not a soul jumping across. And then there's the fear. If there's no soul, Buddhism must mean nothing matters. But the opposite is true. Because there is no permanent self, change is always possible. We can release suffering, start anew, and live more lightly, right here and now. The small lesson here: misunderstanding rebirth can lead us either into comforting illusions or fearful confusion. But understanding it correctly, we see rebirth is not mystical, it is natural. And we ourselves shape it, moment by moment, through our choices. This also shows why the Buddha emphasized being born as a human is an incredibly rare and precious opportunity. Because only in this human life do we have the wisdom and conditions to observe, to practice, and to free ourselves from samsara. In the next part, we'll reflect on this, why this human life is precious. 9. Why human life is precious. The Buddha once gave a metaphor so striking it still stuns listeners today. He said, "Imagine a blind turtle living at the bottom of a vast ocean. Every 100 years it surfaces once, and on that ocean floats a piece of driftwood with a single small hole. The chance that the turtle's head would come up exactly through that hole, that is the chance of being born as a human. In other words, the opportunity for this human life is so rare it is almost a miracle. In modern life, especially in the West, it's easy to forget this. We can walk into a library and access thousands of books. We can go online and explore any philosophy, including the Buddha's teachings. We have the freedom to sit quietly, breathe, reflect, and choose how to live. Compare this to countless other beings. Animals without the ability for reflection, humans in war-torn lands with no chance to practice, or countless lives drifting in ignorance. And we see how fortunate we are to have the conditions, wisdom, freedom, environment to turn inward. The small lesson here: human life is not just a brief journey between birth and death. It is an opportunity to awaken, a rare chance to see the nature of suffering and learn how to go beyond it. If we waste this chance, chasing fame, habits, or trivial concerns, we are like the blind turtle that surfaces but immediately dives back down, missing the precious piece of wood. And because this life is so rare, the Buddha pointed us toward a clear path to make use of it. The path that leads out of samsara, that stops fueling the fire of suffering. In the final part, we will turn to the heart of it, the path to freedom, stepping off the wheel. 10. The path to freedom, stepping off the wheel. If rebirth is a wheel that spins endlessly, is there a way to step off it? The Buddha's answer was yes. And it doesn't lie in a miracle or in the hands of some higher power. It lies in our very choices, moment by moment. He said, "Suffering continues because we keep feeding the fire, nurturing craving, clinging, grasping. If we want the wheel to stop, we simply stop adding fuel." Imagine a bonfire. As long as wood is added, the fire blazes. But if you stop feeding it, the flames naturally die down, not because someone extinguished them, but because the conditions are gone. Samsara works the same way. The path the Buddha offered to do this is the Noble Eightfold Path, living with right view, right mindfulness, right concentration, seeing reality clearly, living awake, acting with wisdom and compassion. For example, when someone insults you, the instinct is anger, retaliation. But if you pause, noticing this is just a passing feeling within the 5 aggregates, You don't need to grasp it. In that moment, you haven't added more wood to the fire of suffering. You've taken a small step off the wheel. The truth is, freedom is not a distant prize in some future life. It begins right here. Every mindful breath, every act of compassion, every letting go of clinging is a step toward freedom. The small lesson here: liberation is not a mystery. It is a continuous choice. Each day, we can either be reborn into old habits or live with wisdom and freedom. And that is the greatest gift the Buddha left us. The assurance that no matter how long the wheel of samsara has been spinning, there is always a path to step off. And it begins right now, in this very moment. Conclusion. We've walked a long journey together. From the paradoxical question, if there is no self, then who is reborn? To exploring the 5 aggregates, understanding, craving, and karma, seeing the continuity of mind, and finally realizing that rebirth is not only about death, it's happening right now in every moment of this life. What the Buddha wanted to give us was not a distant philosophy, but a practical way of living. To see impermanence and non-self, so we cling less. To observe craving and karma, so we see how we weave our own future. Above all, to practice mindfulness, compassion, and wisdom, so we can step off the wheel of suffering. This teaching is not to make us fear the next life, but to help us treasure this very present moment. Every breath, every thought, every choice is an opportunity to be reborn either into old patterns of clinging or into a new space of freedom and awakening. And if even one idea from today's journey touched you, let it live in your daily life. Maybe in something simple, pausing for one mindful breath before reacting, smiling at a stranger, or letting go of something you've held too tightly. Because it is in these small moments that the first steps off the wheel are truly taken. And if you wish to continue this journey with me, learning, practicing, and finding peace together, stay with this channel. Perhaps in the next video, you'll discover the very insight you've been waiting for all along.